Welcome, friends and fellow horse fiends. You've landed on Come Ride With Me, a podcast dedicated to helping you find harmony, joy, and success in your riding. I'm your host, Anna Fox of Equus Enlightened. This pod isn't about training your horse, but about training you to be the best partner for your horse. Listen to find out how I use my intention to direct my ride. You'll hear how I decide what to focus on, what to say yes to, and when to redirect my horse. You'll see how not getting frustrated or overwhelmed is the easiest path to sanity and harmony. So, what are you waiting for? Come ride with me. Hey there, horse fiends. I'm your host, Anna Fox of Equus Enlightened. This season on Come Ride With Me, we're talking about letting go of perfectionism. Because the harder you try to hold it all together, the faster it all falls apart. Last episode, we talked about micromanaging and how that can shut down your horse and make them not want to try anymore. This week, I'm diving into a question I got online that takes us back to episode 6 and 7, where I talked about control being an illusion and how remaining curious when things go wrong is better than attaching negative judgments to whatever's going wrong. And this question was asked perfectly because she said, I'm curious why I feel uncoordinated and unbalanced in the saddle. Now, this person is a novice rider who's learning as an adult and also thinks her mare is getting impatient with her lack of ability to follow the rhythm. So if you've ever felt like you just can't get in sync with your horse, this episode is for you. This is a great question, and hooray for her for remaining curious, right? Because stating something negatively like, I am uncoordinated, makes it seem like a fixed trait and creates a limiting belief. Instead, saying something like, right now, I'm uncoordinated because I haven't learned how to follow my horse's rhythm or stay balanced on my horse is better. Yes, I know that's more words. It takes longer to say, takes longer to think, takes more thought to even think that out than say, I'm uncoordinated or I suck, right? But the fact that it takes you longer to think about it is even better, because that's actually using your prefrontal cortex, which is already starting to quash your negative emotions because you are countering that fight or flight thought in your head. So thinking this way, asking the question, being curious, is a win-win. Taking longer to think about things that you might feel a little negatively about and reframe them is a win-win, but we're not going to go down that rabbit hole today. Instead, we're going to talk about how you can improve that feeling of being uncoordinated. So my first question when I heard this was, well, do you feel unbalanced in other activities or in your life in general, or only when you're riding? And that's important because if it only happens on the horse, it's likely a very riding specific habit or attention pattern that she's holding, right? The fact that she hasn't learned to be relaxed and follow the rhythm yet. She hasn't figured out how to balance on a moving dynamic animal yet. It's kind of a hard thing to do. But if it's just something that is sort of her normal and happens in other activities, then it may be an overall general body awareness or coordination issue. And in that case, may be better for you to focus on that on the ground, right? Physical therapists are usually really good at working on balance and coordination. You can also find trainers that specifically work on that kind of thing. But that is a great road to go down if you feel like it happens to you all the time. It can also really help your riding, whether you feel like it happens to you all the time or not. But if she's someone who is athletic in other endeavors, maybe, for instance, I snowboard. I learned to snowboard after I learned to ride, but now I can use that feeling of what it feels like to be on the board and how you control the board and how you balance on the board. And I can also apply that to my riding. So if people have something that they're already athletically inclined towards, yoga, dance, hiking even, they're avid about something like that, you can use those to make correlations and help people perceive their balance on their horse differently and start to change their thought patterns about it. Because a lot of times it's just that you are in that fight or flight state and you're pretty sure you're going to fall off and die. Or as one of my wonderful students says, worse than that, she would be paralyzed. Whatever your fear is, we can help rewire how you approach it and how you think about it. So this particular person that asked the question is, her trainer is doing a really cool thing and she's got her in a bareback pad with a vaulting surcingle. So she can kind of use that as training wheels and hold on. And that's fantastic. It makes her feel more secure because she's got the handles primarily. And that is a big benefit to the horse because it removes the reins from the security question. And it lets her start to feel the rhythm without feeling like she also needs to fight to stay on. And then it leaves the hands free when she feels like she can let go to find a natural balance. We love to hold on to things, right? It's a biological instinct for us to grab. Right? Isn't that the first thing that we want babies to do? Grab your finger. It's ingrained in us. And the first thing you do when you trip walking through your house is you grab something, right? Reach out for something to hold on to. So when we're riding, that security of holding on to the reins makes us feel oftentimes like we're balanced when we're not. And what we're actually doing is balancing on the horse's mouth. And this is one way that a lot of riders don't realize that they're micromanaging. They're micromanaging their own balance by holding the horse's mouth, and they don't even realize they're doing it because they think their position is really good. So anytime you can challenge yourself to ride without your reins safely, it is a wonderful learning experience. You will learn so much about yourself, your mental thoughts, your balance, all those things. And a lot of times what I will do with people is use like just a bucking strap on their saddle, or they can hold on to the pommel, like if we're doing lunge lessons, something like that. And what you want to do is you want to hold on in the beginning so you don't feel unsafe. And you may need to have someone guiding your horse, right? Either leading them or lunging or whatever so that you feel safe. And you're just going to hold on to the vaulting surcingle or a bucking strap or the front of your saddle. And when you feel like you can relax, rest your hands where they are and follow the rhythm. Start at the walk. Don't get crazy. Can you do it at the walk? And then can you do it at the trot? And don't try to trot for 5 minutes or the whole way around the arena or whatever. Make it a very few steps of trot. If you feel unbalanced at all, come right back down, grab onto the saddle again, whatever it is. Don't overface yourself because that puts you into that fight or flight mode again. So in really short intervals, just take your hands off of where you're holding on and then put them back, and take them off and put them back. And you always want to try and put them back before you feel like you're going to be unbalanced, before that fight or flight notion kicks off in your head. Because you don't want to start that pattern. You want to stay in your thinking brain, right? So if you let go and you feel like your position immediately changes, or you need to immediately change your position, or you just can't let go, then you're probably not relaxed and you're probably not really following. And some of the biggest tension culprits that are drilled into riders are the phrases heels down and shoulders back. Not that they're wrong, but they tend to create a lot of tension because riders will jam their ankles down, creates a stiff lower leg, creates a brace in the seat, and our bodies are totally connected, just like our horses' bodies. So if we are holding tension in one little place, that's going to translate through our whole body. So if you're holding your shoulders back, your spine is probably going to be locked. So is your rib cage, which locks up your pelvis, which means you can't follow. There's no fluidity of motion there. So when we do these things, we often force a position rather than letting it develop from true balance. When you're really balanced, your shoulders will align naturally. Your heels will drop down naturally. Everybody's going to be a little different because we're all built a little bit differently. But if you're holding yourself in those positions, not only are you making parts of your body rigid, and that makes it really hard to follow your horse, you're also decreasing your ability to feel. And I wrote a blog on this probably several years ago now called The Art of Exteroception. And exteroception is that being able to feel what is happening on the outsides of our bodies with our senses. And there's more than just your sense of touch involved in that. So when you hold the tension, whether it's in your heels or your shoulders or holding the reins, you are interrupting that sense of feel and that exteroception. So allowing yourself to have those moments where you are just relaxed, you're following, you're holding on to something other than the reins, and you can let your hands just hover, and then maybe you start to move them around. But in the beginning, you just let them hover and go right back down when you need them. It can really help you find the balance and coordination. Another great exercise that I love is basically mimicking star pose in yoga on the horse. And that just allows you to kind of take your extremities off and really balance from your core, your seat. Feel your pelvis moving, feeling your seat bones being on either side of the back or the saddle or whatever. And you can also do that and really focus on your breath and your hip movement. The tensegrity that we need in our bodies to ride is very much like doing yoga. Your muscles need to be engaged, but they need to be relaxed and able to move. You're not rigid and locked into any one position. When you feel really good, pretty balanced about letting your hands off, and you can do your star pose maybe in the walk and the trot, then think about doing something more challenging with your upper body, like mimic climbing a rope, making big circles with your arms, something like that. And notice, can you keep your pelvis moving when you're doing that? when you're challenging your upper body. What we know from research is that more advanced riders synchronize their ankle, knee, and heel movements to dampen the vertical movement of going up and down, which novice riders tend not to do that. So anytime you can get away from your hands and get out of your head and start playing around with your position, you can allow your body to find that natural synchronization. Also, being able to coordinate your shoulders, elbows, and wrists is going to allow you to maintain a more consistent contact with the bit and not be so reliant on the reins for balance. And there actually has been some biomechanics research done on riders that shows that forcing a posture increases rigidity and reduces your ability to follow the horse's movement. So we want to get out of heels down, shoulders back, all of those things that cause us to force ourselves into a position. Because anytime you have stiff muscles, you're more likely to bounce. That's more likely to cause you to feel uncoordinated and unbalanced. And we already have little things that make us all unbalanced, right? Like we have a dominant side. And what's really interesting about some of the research that's been done on riders is there's some research to suggest that actually most people hold more tension on the right rein. Doesn't matter if they're right or left-handed. You used to think that it was clearly with your dominant hand. Now that's maybe not so clear. So that right there is already going to create an asymmetry that can create a feeling of imbalance. And as soon as we start to feel unbalanced, uncoordinated, that is when our perfectionism starts to kick in, right? Or if we hear, put your heels down, keep your shoulders back, those little things drive a lot of our perfectionism, and that drives tension. So if you feel like you need to hold a picture-perfect position, you're probably holding tension. If you can allow yourself to relax into your natural balance, it's going to allow for a natural coordination to emerge. And remember, rhythm and relaxation always come before refining. And that is true for riders as well. You know, we like to think about the training period. We like to think about the training pyramid for horses, or the training scale, whatever you want to call it. But I really think it was also meant for riders. How we should also train ourselves. And sometimes we forget that. And now that we've talked about the physicality of feeling unbalanced and uncoordinated, let's talk about the mentality of it and what feeling unbalanced is really about. It's usually not about strength or your physical coordination. It's about trust. And it's about, do you trust yourself? Do you trust your horse? Can you trust your seat instead of your hands? Can you trust that this dynamic flow of movement is better than trying to brace against it? Can you trust your ability to regain your balance without grabbing onto your horse? And if you don't trust your horse, I really invite you to try and unpack this feeling of trust, because a lot of times people will say, well, I don't trust my horse, but in reality, they don't trust themselves. So really think about it. Because if what you're not trusting is your ability, then that is not trusting yourself. That doesn't have anything to do with your horse. That's something where you need to develop more tools in your toolbox to strengthen your ability, find your balance again quickly, and know that you can have little bobbles and you can get back into position. Know that you can have bobbles and you can follow that and then get back into position. So to start building up that trust in yourself, your challenge for this week is to ride for 5 minutes with no reins, safely. You can be on the lunge, somebody can be leading your horse, whatever, and just try. Can you let go? Can you follow the motion? Start short, build yourself up, focus on feeling your horse's rhythm instead of holding it. And then when you get really good at it, you can start to incorporate your breath into that, because a lot of riders hold their breath as well, which is another form of holding tension, and that can make you feel like coordinated as well. So are you holding your breath is another great question. And one way that I like to work on that is to tie my breath into my transitions. And this is one of my favorite exercises. It's in my exercises for pre-clinics. I have a video that I can post for you where you just inhale, smile, and think, go forward. And then exhale and think, stop. And you can teach your horse to go off of those very simple cues. And if you are consistent with it, I usually tell people to, in the beginning, make their transitions at specific points in the arena. So you can use letters if you got a dressage arena, or markers or fence posts or whatever, however you want to mark it, so that your brain just remembers. And then what you can do is, once you've gotten good at doing the transitions with your breath, you can then just use those points in the arena to remember, to remind yourself to breathe. So as you go by A, C, B, and E, you check your breathing. Am I breathing? And make sure you can actually take a full breath, because the other thing people will do is breathe really shallow, and that causes tension in your rib cage, in your chest, which just filters throughout your body. Also limits the amount of oxygen that your brain is getting, which can cause you to not think that well either. So there's a whole lot of things that not breathing can affect. And a lot of riders don't realize how much they restrict their breathing when they're riding. If you often feel out of breath when you're finished riding, or riding a test or a lesson or whatever, or a certain gait like cantering, then you're probably holding your breath. It's probably not because you're out of shape. It's probably because you're holding your breath. So I will post that video. And in the meantime, just think about, am I really relaxed? Am I really following the motion? Am I breathing? Am I trusting? And then give yourself small increments of just not holding. In time, you will build up your ability, your balance. You'll feel more coordinated. You'll be able to do all the things you want to do. Don't get frustrated. Don't attach any negative language to it. Just think to yourself, well, I have not learned how to do this yet, but I am trying, and no matter what happens, have fun. I will talk to you next episode. In the meantime, happy riding. Thanks for listening to this week's episode of Come Ride With Me. My goal is to demonstrate to riders that we don't have to do something every second of a ride. We don't have to do things a certain way or at a certain time. Just staying present with your horse and gathering non-judgmental information about how they are going is way more beneficial than overthinking and overworking. If you'd like to learn more about what I do at Equus Enlightened, you can find me at equisenlightened.net or on patreon.com/equisenlightened. You can also find me on social media as Equus Enlightened. I will put all the links in the show notes. And until next time, happy riding. Oh, before you go, please remember to rate, review, and share this pod so others can find it. I would love constructive criticism, but like my mom used to say, if you don't have anything really nice to say, there's no need to say it. Just ride on, my friends. Have a great week.